India sits on an immense volume of untapped industrial wealth. Beneath its vast forests and plains lies a raw material inventory of staggering scale. This breakdown shows India's production: 89 distinct minerals in total, including 52 non-metallic, 4 fuel, 11 metallic, and 22 minor minerals. But tracking all 89 equally guarantees information overload. You only need to track the handful of states that actually move the needle. There's a massive gap between what is buried underground and what is actually pulled out of the earth. Despite the sheer size of India's mineral map, just 4 or 5 states dictate the country's actual mineral output. You can waste countless hours memorizing locations of minor minerals, or you can focus your time strictly on the regions that dictate macroeconomic trends. Understanding India's true economic power means looking past the colorful geological maps and paying attention to the hard extraction data. The northeastern peninsular belt, stretching across the Chotanagpur and Orissa plateaus, is the undisputed energy and aluminum hub of the country. This chart shows India's top coal reserves out of a 400 billion ton total. Odisha leads with nearly 101 billion tons, followed closely by Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. Combined, these 3 states account for almost 70%.
The East Central Belt is an absolute resource powerhouse, but its isolation forces reliance of a complex, expensive freight network, ultimately driving up energy costs for everyone else. But there is a dangerous trap in mineral economics, assuming that having the largest reserve automatically makes a state the market leader in production. This matrix shows manganese reserves first. Odisha holds a massive 44% of deposits, and Karnataka holds 22%. But checking actual extraction, Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh jump to the top, producing over half the country's manganese, while Odisha drops to third. Copper is an even starker example. Rajasthan dominates reserves with over 52% of the ore, leaving Madhya Pradesh far behind. Yet recently, Madhya Pradesh pulled 2.3 million tons of copper from the ground, while Rajasthan managed less than 1 million. The dirt in the ground doesn't dig itself up. Actual output is dictated by active infrastructure, not geological potential. If you build state policy or invest capital based purely on a reserve map, you are flying blind to the reality of the supply chain. Extraction capability and operational infrastructure are the true, reliable indicators of a state's economic power. We see extreme imbalances in India's mineral portfolio, starting with areas where the country dominates completely. This chart shows domestic mica production. Andhra Pradesh holds an absolute monopoly, engulfing 93% of total output, leaving just a sliver for Rajasthan. But that comfortable domestic dominance evaporates when we look at critical metals like gold and copper, where the country faces a severe import dependency. This flowchart tracks India's domestic copper demand. It splits into local production, scrap recycling, and imported copper concentrates processed by private companies. Because domestic mines don't yield enough ore, massive private smelters rely almost entirely on that third path, imported concentrates, to run. That means the entire domestic supply chain is heavily dependent on high-volume maritime shipping just to get the raw materials to the shoreline. India successfully built the industrial capacity to refine and cast copper, but lacks the upstream raw ore, leaving a massive vulnerability right in the middle of the supply chain. This bottleneck ripples into high-tech manufacturing. Copper is essential for power cables and aerospace-grade electronics. A shortfall threatens defense hardware and the National Space Program, at the mercy of global markets. Possessing downstream refining infrastructure offers little security during a global crisis if you don't control the raw materials required to feed it. We started with a list of 89 minerals and a lot of highly skewed data. The challenge is knowing how to categorize this information practically, whether you're studying for an exam or analyzing market investments. This 2x2 quadrant chart replaces the need for rote memorization. The y-axis measures self-sufficiency against import dependency, and the x-axis measures whether a mineral is highly concentrated in 1 or 2 states or widely distributed across the country. In the top left, we have concentrated strengths. This is where you plot mica in Andhra Pradesh and the massive coal reserves in Odisha, Jharkhand, and Chhattisgarh. Below that, in the bottom left, are concentrated vulnerabilities.
critical metals like copper and gold, where local production falls dangerously short of demand. Move to the top right and you find distributed strengths. Limestone, for instance, is produced in high volumes across multiple states, like Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Andhra Pradesh, providing stable local supply for cement. Mastering this quadrant instantly separates the strategic strengths from the dangerous bottlenecks. You don't need to memorize a list of 89 minerals blindly. Spend your time understanding the East-Central energy belts and recognize the specific import traps threatening tech and defense manufacturing. Geopolitical security is measured by the hard reality of extraction and import volumes, which matter far more than the theoretical wealth suggested by a geological map.